Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, hello, hello. Feels like forever. We're getting back on track next week. 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, and you won't be able to shut me up or get rid of me. So I'm looking forward to a return to some sense of normalcy. Is that really a word? Who said that? Some president, right? Like Cal Coolidge or something. And I think normality is the word. But whatever, normalcy. It works for me. Guys, I don't know where to start. And I guess let me start with just a general sense I have when I read the paper these days, and that is that nothing seems to be working. If you look at the Secret Service stuff, the rampant incompetence is pretty awesome. And I'm using that word correctly. Awesome. The missteps in Dallas with the Ebola patient. Don't we do anything right anymore? Is there any institution that is functioning well? I don't mean to be such a bummer, but gee whiz. I understand why, you individually and collectively we fall into some kind of despond because we just seem ill-served. Our government doesn't work. And I can argue that it used to work pretty damn well. And then Republicans got it in their heads to demonize it, to run against it, which always struck me as so odd. Why would you want to be in something you think is so heinous? Well, it turns out they want to be in it so they can grind it to a halt. And thus they have. Nothing can get done legislatively, nothing. The only bipartisan thing I've seen in a long time is the general astonishment and disbelief at the failures of the Secret Service. Republican, Democrat, Independent, it didn't matter what the heck you were. What the hell is going on? I don't know. So we have a government that doesn't work, and in part that's because the Republicans have had their way. And I hate to alert you, in case you haven't been paying attention, but it appears they might take the Senate too, very well may, so that we will have an entire Congress that simply will not function. I mean, when the Senate is somewhat functional and the House totally non-functional, one or two things can conceivably be apparently accomplished, but this is going to be brutal. The Republicans are like in some kind of a destructive death throw. They have no vision of going forward, and they fear they're going down, and it looks like they want to take all of us with them. Woo! No. I did not get the memo that it's all Barack Obama's fault. No, I did not. Okay, so incompetence. There's a voice in my head that always says, it was ever thus. But that's not true. It's just not true. Government, excuse me, government in this, hello? Government used to be able to rise to the occasion. If we were under threat, people came together, took care of things. And I just don't see it happening. So anyway. And then, God, adding to my general angst and depression, that pirate game. Wait. Woof. I kept thinking, thank God I didn't have tickets. Thank God I wasn't there. Because I would never have, walked out on them. But to have to sit through that. Thanks, guys, for a great year. Ending on a humiliating note. So, let me start with this Secret Service stuff. Because I really am blown away. And I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop. What are we going to hear next? What are we going to learn next? I mean, you can't believe this stuff. In a time when terrorism is daily in our minds and certainly in the news. And we know that there are people out there. Whoops, I can't hear myself all of a sudden. How'd that happen? There are people out there. Okay, I'm okay. God, that was weird. Okay, there are people out there who want to, as people like to remind us, want to kill us. Well, you betcha. And the one they'd really love to kill, it'd be like, it would trump 9/11, taking down those towers, would be to walk into the White House and take out the President of the United States. And apparently, the door wasn't even locked? I mean, excuse me, the door wasn't locked? There's something somewhat, I was going to say delicious, and I don't know why that word occurred to me. There is something interesting, ironic, whatever, about the fact that the intruder who jumped the fence, sprinted across the lawn, got into the White House, all the way to the East Room, into the past Secret Service dogs, God knows what, piranhas in moats. This guy is mentally ill. Make no mistake about it. Everyone who jumps the White House fence, they're all nuts. They're nuts. How did this guy get nuts? I'll tell you how he got nuts. This is the ironic part. He got nuts by following his commander-in-chief's orders. He got nuts serving in the wars that this country has been waging. He answered the call. He went off to war. He came back from his service broken. Like tens of thousands before him. He comes back broken. Doesn't show up in any of the statistics about casualties or anything, but broken. His life's done now, right? So, interesting. It was almost like, the pigeons coming home to roost. You send these young people off to this horrific, unwinnable war, and then they come back damaged and crazy. And the next thing you know, they're sprinting across the lawn and, into the East Room. All right, that's just I'm just stream of consciousness here. There's something about that. And then, when they were drilling the now former head of the Secret Service, who, if you closed your eyes, sounded exactly like Jodie Foster. I can't be the only one who, when I heard her talk, say, oh my God, it's like Jodie Foster's voice. But there were guys faulting the Secret Service for not shooting to kill. What do you mean? None of these guys had, but you just take him down. That's what one of the congressmen said. I don't want you, playing nice here. I want you to take him down. Somebody's running through the front door of the White House. No time to ask questions. We don't know intent. We don't have a clue. He could have a suicide vest on. Bang, you're dead. The fact that you didn't kill this guy is beyond me. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, because in fact the Secret Service said, somebody said something to the effect, what I said just a moment ago, these guys are always nuts, and, it'd be a shame to die just because you're mentally ill. But I have a feeling the Secret Service should probably be more hard-assed. So that whole thing is beyond belief. And then, of course, the thing that just blows you away, and you hear the president wasn't even told, is the president in Atlanta at the CDC is riding in an elevator with a guy with a gun who has a criminal record. Who's in the elevator? The president of the United States, the Secret Service, and a nut with a gun. Do you remember before Obama was elected president how you worried? Oh, God, I worried it so much. And I thought, don't even talk about it. Don't even talk about it. This sense that he'd be killed. A sense born from our history of what happens to black leaders and more progressive leaders. They get assassinated. And the first black president, with the hate that so many harbor, I was so frightened for him. And then as the years went on and he didn't get killed, I relaxed. I thought, well, see, the Secret Service must really be stepping it up a notch. That's what I actually thought. Ah! Jeez. So, there's gunshots. There are bullets that enter the White House through windows on the second floor, and the Secret Service doesn't know about it. A housekeeper, a maid cleaning up reports it. You know, used to be that you'd say Secret Service, and you would feel like these are the elite of the elite. I mean, they look like it. Don't mess with them. But then they start getting drunk in South America and drunk in Europe and screwing around and generally behaving badly, even if they weren't members of the Secret Service. And I did begin to wonder, is this sort of like relaxation in their attitude? Is this conceivably because they don't care as much? Because he's black? I thought that. Have you thought that? I thought that. That it's not even conscious on their part, but they're just a little more relaxed. Now, there's something in the paper in the New York Times today about the fact that a lot of black Americans do think that and have been saying amongst themselves just that. Well, I just want them to know it's occurred to a few white Americans, too. The question, I wonder if, and if it is the case, I do think it is, as I said, an unconscious kind of a relaxation. I can't go any beyond that. I cannot. Okay, and back to more just levels of incompetence that are mind-blowing. A guy puking his guts out who's just come from Liberia shows up at a hospital in a major metropolitan area in this country, the greatest country on earth. And they give him some antibiotics. Huh? He had all symptoms of a viral, maybe flu, whatever. You don't give antibiotics for that. That's not the worst thing, of course. They told him to go home. Fine. I don't think our health system works very well. And there's a level of incompetence there that is frightening. And it's not so much people as it is, I think, structures. If you've ever been in an emergency room, one of the things that drives you crazy, at least drove me crazy, is everyone who comes in to see you, talk to you, deal with you, asks you the exact same questions. What happened? When I broke my shoulder. Okay, what happened? I'm in agony. I have told 20 people the same story. I have given them every bit of information, and then I give it again to the next person and the next. I finally said, don't you guys, there are computers now. I mean, if you're writing this down, doesn't it just go to the next person? Why am I telling this story 1,000,000 times? So the intake nurse did note that he had come from Liberia. But I have a feeling that whatever she noted never went anywhere. That's how hospitals function. The nurses ask their questions and then put that information wherever nurses put it. And then the docs come in and you start from ground absolute zero again. And the hospital is saying, well, we have a slight, apparently a flaw in our... Listen, you think that hospital is any different than most other hospitals? The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. The doctors disregard nurses. And then the Dallas authorities do not immediately secure this apartment that 4 poor souls are in, including a woman who slept in the bed with this guy, the bed that's still there, the sheets that are still there. And there's something in the paper today that said something, I could not believe what I was reading when I saw it, where a guy in Dallas talking about why they haven't somehow sanitized that apartment said, well, we haven't been able to find any entity that's willing to go in. What? What about, does Dallas have like a health department? When they go into places, don't they have some hazmat suits and stuff like that? What is this? So we can see that Dallas doesn't work. Oh, speaking of that, did you see that there was a tour bus, totally off subject, there was a tour bus in Dallas that took, I guess, tourists around to the big points, attractions. And this tour bus had on its side a large picture of John F. Kennedy. And under that picture, it said something to the effect of, Dallas, where big things happen. I saw that Jon Stewart said, can we quarantine the whole state? Wouldn't that be great? Well, the folks in Texas generally don't believe in government. They love to demonize it. And I see that it's working really well for them because obviously they have a dysfunctional government in Dallas. Beyond belief to me. Beyond belief. So all of these stories just sort of reassert this uncomfortable sense that a lot of us have that things ain't working anymore. They're just not working. And yet we know there are talented people, conscientious people. I think it's not people as much as it's systems, institutions that somehow don't work. And in the case where you need government to work, Secret Service, Ebola, that where that is the most important, it has to function to find out the level of incompetence is higher than you could have imagined in your worst nightmares is something. I mean, at least here in Pennsylvania, the incompetence is obvious and apparent as well. But but at least our headlines and incompetence are about, cabinet secretaries spending time on the job, looking at pornography and then sharing it. Don't know. So let's see what we got here from you. Oh, yeah. Everybody wants to know if I have seen the Republicans' advertisement that they are aiming at young women voters, knowing that they don't do too well with young people and with women. And they have an ad in which essentially they're saying to women, look, picking a candidate is as important as, well, picking out your wedding dress. Say yes to the dress. I have not seen it here. I am told that it is running here because it's running in an effort to help Tom Corbett. I know it's running in Florida for Rick Scott. It has to be seen to be disbelieved, says Bill. The unbelievable tone deafness and the condescension of the Republican Party to women is beyond belief. And now they've successfully shut down almost every women's health center that provides abortions in the state of Texas. If you don't live in Austin or I believe Houston, maybe Dallas, you will not have access to any. There's in that huge state, there's 5 places now that are able to provide that totally legal service. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike from D.C.
Hi.
Republicans need to stay away from comedy and parody because that say yes to Corbett doesn't rhyme with dress. The reason that show, the title is catchy is because yes and dress rhyme. And they made it say yes to Corbett. It's ridiculous.
I haven't even seen it, so it doesn't even work in use here. They must be using it then in other places as well.
It's a ridiculous commercial. I watched it on YouTube yesterday just because I couldn't believe it. And they have a girl, and she has the dress she wants, the Corbett dress, and then she has to put on the liberal dress that makes her buy a veil and makes her buy things she doesn't want and makes her pay taxes on the dress.
Oh, my God.
And they're trying to make a statement like we're bad and they're good, and they're trying to be funny, but they just need to stay away from funny. Stick with what works for you guys, which is fear. They don't do comedy well, so stick with fear.
No, they can't do comedy because, they're self-parodizing often, but they don't even realize it. You can't be any funnier than what they're just look at their statements. They're unintentionally funny. When they try to be funny, it doesn't work.
Yep. There was Fox tried to have a daily show 10 years ago. They tried to do what Jon Stewart did. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Didn't work too well, huh?
No, stick with fear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. Stick with fear. Yeah, fear does work for you. Very well. Very well. So here's an email from someone referring to a subject that I brought up Monday, I guess. And this had to do with, like, why do we still have pennies and the fact that it costs almost 2 cents to make 1 penny. And nobody wants them. And we spend millions every year making new pennies. And Alan writes, I use pennies. Good for you. There is a mile of toll road where the charge was 75 cents. And now, 4 years later, it is $1.60 for a mile of road. I am proud to say that my form of protest is paying the full fare in pennies. You carry around 160 pennies every day or whatever you're going. I tried calling the Turnpike Commission and my state rep and senators, so that didn't go anywhere. So pennies are my protest. Well, good for you. That takes some work on your part, though, but that's good. I appreciate your creativity and your desire to annoy the powers that be. $1.60 for a mile. That's a little steep. That's a bit steep. Roger writes, the Secret Service didn't want to kill an insane person? Well, Texas certainly doesn't care. Is something backwards here? Well, you know, it's hard to keep up these days. Again. William writes, Lynn, I'm wondering if both versions of the Secret Service can be true at once. They may well be holding off all kinds of threats. This is true, and we shouldn't forget that, which may never be declassified for years. We'll never know what they didn't happen as a result of their actions. Yet, at the same time, all this incompetence can still crop up. Perhaps the service is polarized between those trying to keep it on mission and those who have settled into a routine attitude. Just a thought. Well, yeah, but then something's happened because people used to, I mean, that's got to be a boring job. It's one of those jobs where generally on a daily basis, you just stand there. What? You stand there waiting for somebody to jump the fence. So most days, nobody jumps the fence, but your tour of duty for the day is to stand out there for 8 hours. And I mean, I would personally lose my mind. But obviously, oh gosh, sure sign of fall. But obviously, there are people that don't belong there because they're making wrong choices and they're not doing the job. There's not a lock. The front door is not locked. I have friends who like triple lock their door. You can't get in or out. You go out into their house and then you want to maybe walk out in the backyard and there's still 20 locks to get into the backyard. The White House? Walk right in. Oh, I don't know. It's a tough job. Not just because you might have to take a bullet, but because of the sort of mind-numbing routine of it, of having to stand there and constantly be vigilant. That would be exhausting in every way, but it's the job. And Bill writes, I do sense that competence is down. Yeah, I do too. And that's what I'm wondering. If competence is down, is that because, again, I'm going to blame it on the Republicans, They're attacks on the institution of public education. And we've got a few generations now that just aren't that with it, where things have just been relaxed and there's no, I don't know, but I do love, since they blame everything on Obama, believe me, I can make a strong case why everything is their fault. Bill's wondering if it comes down to a loss of sense of mission. Things feel unfocused, he writes, like people on all levels are simply going through the motions. I have to wonder if it's due in part to our having a fuzzy and rather grim sense of what we can expect in our future. I don't know. All we're doing here is speculating. But apparently morale in the Secret Service is very low. They've had a lot of bad publicity. Morale is down. It's a hard job. And maybe they've had some lousy guys at the top who didn't understand how to create a sense of not only mission, but of the importance of that mission, and that they were that their jobs were extraordinarily important, and how proud they should be, and constant and vigilant. I don't know. This woman who was, for a little while, the Jodie Foster voice person, the head of the Secret Service, was just the epitome of a maddening bureaucrat, institutional type, speaking that bureaucratese. Hello? Hey, caller.
Hey, Lynn, how are you today?
I'm as good as anyone can be.
Well, I'm actually going to go just a trifle off topic with what you're currently discussing, kind of call back what you and a previous caller discussed, which is that conservative humor doesn't work, that they're not good at it. And I've known this for some time, and it's actually really easy to figure out why, if you think for just a moment about it. I mean, comedy is generally based on a few broad principles. One is being humorously irreverent toward tradition or authority, or those that hold power. And conservatives can't do that.
No.
They're not going to be irreverent toward religion or toward traditional morality.
But a lot of comedy is
oligarchy of very wealthy individuals in multinational corporations, or you're self-deprecating.
That's right. That's what I was just going to say. Right. And they
making
ain't.
fun of your own flaws,
yeah.
of the foibles of humanity. Conservatives can't do that. They take themselves very seriously.
Right.
They're the upright people with all the answers.
Right.
And the last, generally, is put-down humor, is mockery. But if you're mocking people who are vulnerable, who are less powerful than you are, that's really just crass. That's bullying. Unless you're doing it as a character. If you're a Lisa Lampanelli or from a much earlier age, a Don Rickles, and your own flaws are pretty apparent, and you're just sort of playing a buffoonish character who's mocking others. That's one thing, but they don't do that. It's all the Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity type of humor.
Which is
where
mean.
You're just picking on people who are vulnerable.
Right.
And the only people who are going to enjoy that are the people of your own group who have a mean sense of humor.
Well, I think you've hit it on the head. I mean, I'll give you an A on that. That was good. 1, 2, 3. Absolutely correct.
1, 2, 3. Very simple. And that's why right-wing humor does not work.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Well
Bye-bye.
done.
Well done. Okay, so I read this piece. Talk about government. I'm thinking now about China. And that's another story that is playing out on our TVs in the demonstrations in Hong Kong. And my guess is that most Americans don't give a damn. But I read a piece on the person most responsible for what is going on over there, backing, this one person pretty much credited with creating a situation that's got the scary, huge bureaucracy of China back on its heels. And to look at him is to be in disbelief. He's 17 years old. He looks like he weighs about 85 pounds. Skinny. He's a kid. He's a skinny little kid. And apparently he started causing trouble 2 years ago when he was 15 years old. You know how when you were 15 and 16 and 17, that is the time, and it continues into your 20s, I think, did for me, in which you become most aware, or you wake up to reality a little bit. And you look around and you see things aren't what you had been told they were. And you see that things don't work like you were told they did. And you found out that things like, that you were taught that something like honesty is the best policy. And then you find out that if you're honest, you'll lose your job, you'll lose your friends. That honesty is not the best policy, and that's not how it works in the real world. Ass kissing works. Honesty? Give me a break. And it's at that age when you start to, and usually, I know in me, it bred anger. I was enraged that I had been hoodwinked. I was enraged that I had been misled. And so often it is young people who have this sense of anger and that this is not what it's supposed to be. But to go up, this little skinny kid, up against those scary Chinese politicians. I so fear for him and for all those other wonderful kids that are in those streets. I don't know if the Chinese would dare do a Tiananmen in Hong Kong, but you know damn well they're not going to let those kids have an inch. I feel for them, and I just, my heart, if you're a mother, you can't look at that kid and not just be in a state of terror for him. Remarkable. Colette writes, sorry, but that schmo who uses pennies holds up the rest of us. The southern end of the Mon Valley Expressway has a toll of $2.05. Talk about a pain in the ass. Well, why does it hold you up? I mean, if she's got it counted out and she just dumps a jar in every time she goes, oh, I see, it takes a while for it to go. I often thought that you couldn't use pennies, but I guess it doesn't say that. Geez, you guys are writing so much here. Let me try to catch up. Chuck writes a few things. Just a reminder, if you want to vote in the November election, you must be registered by October 6th, and that is Monday. So do it. And if you know somebody who isn't registered, get to them now. He goes on and says, I watched the hearing the day prior to Julia Pearson's resignation. That's the Secret Service one. Usually I find fault with the excessive bloviating by the congressman at these types of hearings, but it was pretty difficult not to find more fault with her answers. Yeah, she was maddening. But the Jodie Foster voice was driving me crazier. When they started to dig into her budget, they found she was recommending a reduction in force for next year of another 350 agents, and she could not explain that. I thought she was complaining that she didn't have enough people. You're saying that she was... God. Lou wants to know, has anyone mentioned the handmade vote signs posted in the East End? Any idea who is responsible? It's a brilliant idea. I haven't seen them. Handmade vote signs? Well, I'm glad to hear it, but I haven't seen it. See? I knew I wasn't the only one who, the minute that woman started talking, said, Jesus, it's Jodie Foster. Because Bill tells me that Mia Farrow tweeted wondering if Jodie Foster had already played Secret Service head Julia Pearson. So she may have picked up on the similarity. Yeah. Go back and listen to that voice. It is dead on. And Bill, who's writing a lot today. On the whole Ebola thing, the Center for Disease Control itself is good. We're talking about Texas going through the motions, having just aced an Ebola drill when they failed to properly recognize Thomas Eric Duncan's symptoms. I mean, but I think it has to, that's a big hospital in a major city, and I don't know that wouldn't happen. I mean, if you've been in ERs, I just don't think anything works anymore. God knows you know that I think our healthcare system is horribly screwed up and crippled. So, God. And you know, if you bother to look at what's going on in Liberia and Sierra Leone, it's one of those realities that it is so hard to force yourself to look. Those pictures of people, just children, being just left on the street to die. And even if they show symptoms, they're like carted to these isolation centers in which there is no help for them. They're just put on the floor in these places with other dying people. There was a picture of a child on a floor, her eyes wide open. She's dead by now. There was a body lying next to her. There was a picture in the paper today of a little girl at a tree. Her mother had already died, and they were coming for her. We don't care about them. Our concern is we don't want them getting it over here. Well, it's come, and it might come again. And then, you want to talk about incompetence? The U.S. sent our army over there, right? We sent a bunch of people. They're supposed to be putting up these clinics. Nothing has been accomplished yet. Nothing. They have to build the buildings. What I want to know is, why do you have to build the buildings? Can't you just take a building? They've got the beds there. The beds are all wrapped in plastic in a hanger. But they've got to grade this thing and take and put up a building. No, you don't. I just get this impression we can't do anything anymore. That's why I'm changing the subject. As a Jewish person, I will be fasting from sundown tonight to sundown tomorrow. And I came upon an article about why fasting is good for you. I'm hoping to remember this as I'm dying of thirst tomorrow afternoon. I mean, fasting means different things to different people. Fasting for, Muslims during Ramadan is a sundown to sunrise to sundown fast daily for a month. That's tough. That is tough. Christians, as far as I know, don't have any real fast days that are generally observed anymore. I mean, the things like can't eat fish on Friday, which used to be a big. I mean, you can't eat meat on Friday. That was considered like a fast of some sort. The Jews fasting for Yom Kippur, we cannot eat anything, nor can we drink anything. There can be nothing. You get in your mouth. And what you find out is that you're fine until about the last 6 hours. Because what you find out, and stop and think about it, you can easily fast for 12 hours because you do it almost every day. I mean, maybe if you're a healthy person, you stop eating after dinner and then you don't eat again until breakfast, and that means you've already gone 12 hours. Body is fine. But it's when you start getting dehydrated that things start going south. But they say here that the physical effects of fasting can do some real positive things, like increasing self-awareness. Yeah, my stomach is starving! That's self-aware. I'm so thirsty, I can't stand it. Our heart rate decreases. That's probably good. But it looks like we don't process information from the outside world as well. So you're more sort of self-contained as you fast. We make less insulin. All kinds of chemical stuff starts happening in your body. You produce more adrenaline, more growth hormone, less insulin, more dopamine. All that sounds like it'd be over. What happens is your blood sugars go kaplooey. And people can get disoriented and sluggish. But it is, above all, an extremely personal experience. And it's all the rage now. It's one of the new diets that you fast for a day and then you eat for 3 and then you fast again. And everybody's saying that is the greatest thing to do. I don't know. I can tell you as somebody who has fasted for 24, 25 hours, it's not fun. It is a personal test of sorts, I guess. All right, so there was a, changing the subject again. God, it's hot as hell in here again. Just wanted to tell you, I am like, whee. A question was posed by the New York Times book review a few weeks ago. Can a single book transform a person's life in a negative way? Has a book ever had a negative influence on you? And gee whiz, apparently their website went kaplooey with people saying, yeah. And do you know that the resounding answer was not only yes, and the resounding example was Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. And the typical comment about Ms. Rand's work was, this is a book that has the power to turn a person into a cold, heartless human being. And a Republican. Mein Kampf came in second. And guess what came in third? The Bible. Well, I guess if you're gay, yes, you would say that. I guess in, Bible can, and the resultant religions can screw up a lot of people. The Communist Manifesto was mentioned. And The Catcher in the Rye came in for tons of criticism as a book that influences behavior for the worst. One woman wrote, "It made me sarcastic and cynical way before I should have been." The Twilight series of books got drubbed. One writer said, "As I read it, I felt my IQ drop 20 points." And also coming in for, yes, oh yes, a book can have a very negative effect on your life. All those self-help books, which can create confusion, guilt, give you all kinds of silly ideas, stupid ideas. I'm sure some are helpful. But the best one I saw of "You Bet a Book Can Have a Negative Effect on You" was a guy named John Beeson. And he said the most dangerous book, Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, thrown from across the living room by my ex-wife and landing between my eyes. Oh, God. God bless little things like that. Really. Okay, guys, so, oh, wait a minute. We just got a few more late incoming. My relationship with Atlas Shrugged. I enjoy the outrageous melodrama, but I get exactly the opposite out of it that its fans do. It is an evil book. My father isn't one for hyperbole, and he summed it up as fascist. Yeah! Well, I mean, Rand was, if she was anything, she was an anti-communist. She was a capitalist with a capital C-A-P-I-T-A-L-I-S-T. And she was so deranged in her hatred for anything communal and her sense that the individual was all, that she went off the rails. But it's amazing how the power of her storytelling worked on so many people's heads. I never read it. I saw the movie. What was that movie with Gary Cooper? It was awful. And Bill tells me Orthodox Christians have some very serious fasts. Well, good for them. Oh, yeah, they do. Coptic Orthodox churches do what Jews do. Oh, no, they eat only once a day. They eat only once a day. I mean, I think Catholics used to fast on Good Friday and Ash Wednesday, but they don't. Do you? No, I don't think so anymore. So, I think that's it. Guys, as I said, it's been a long, hard struggle, but not tomorrow. I haven't known what day it is because I haven't been working. Today's Friday. Wait, okay. So, Monday, we started new. We've got a new lovely producer, Celine, and she will be here. And I think Carla will be here, making sure that's, helping Celine along. And so, we gotta be a little, halting for a while, and maybe we'll get our audio issues under control. Excuse me. And everything will be fine. Okay? So have a good weekend. For those of you of the Jewish faith, have a tolerable fast. And I'll talk at you on Monday. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.